It's that holiday feeling in half an hour here on BBC One. Before that, Newsroom South East with Gwennon Edwards and Gargi Patel.
The end of the Ecovillage. Bailiffs tear down the barricades and reclaim the site for Guinness.
The hardest lesson of all, the school where a teacher was beaten up by intruders.
And bunkered, the GP who's been trying for more than 20 years to join his local golf club. Good evening. We start tonight with the eviction of squatters from a self-styled eco-village beside the River Thames in South London. There were angry scenes as bailiffs moved onto the site at first light and began tearing down the makeshift homes. By lunchtime, all the squatters had been removed. The group which organised the protest, The Land Is Ours, said the battle was far from over. Well, our reporter James Cameron is at the scene of the eviction in Battersea. James.
Well, you join me at the front entrance to what was, up until this morning at least, the so-called Eco-Village. As you can see behind me, the way now is firmly barred by a row of security guards. Contractors have been on site all day, making the place secure. They've been putting up fencing all around the most vulnerable parts. The idea, of course, from their point of view anyway, to stop the protesters simply marching straight back in as soon as they leave. The police and bailiffs moved in first thing this morning to start evicting the squatters. The process of removing the 70-odd demonstrators occupying the land was relatively peaceful.
I've had the best 6 months of my life on this place, and this isn't going to stop us, right?
You insulted him, mate.
Sorry.
Slipped.
Huge traffic jams built up as the area was sealed off for a time, but by 9:30 the site was virtually clear and mechanical diggers set about levelling the makeshift village that had sprung up there.
I never believed they'd do it. The fact of the matter is that Guinness have behaved like the typical spoilt brats. We don't want it, but you can't have it.
If this is what Guinness called environmentally friendly, then I hope nobody in Britain ever drinks another drop of Guinness.
There's been no need for any heavy-handedness at all this morning. There's been a good rapport between ourselves, the sheriff's officers and those on site, and all we've had to do is just gently control them down from the structures they've been sitting on.
The 14-acre site behind me here has been lying derelict for the past 7 years, ever since an old distillery was knocked down on it. Guinness want to build luxury flats all along the waterfront there, similar to the ones you can see further down the river, and then behind them they want to build a giant supermarket. Now, these plans have been opposed by the local council, Wandsworth, and are currently being examined at a public inquiry. The area was occupied by the environmental group The Land Is Ours back in May. They quickly set about building homes, digging allotments and even conducting guided tours for local school children.
Our main objective was to get this up the political agenda, this issue of derelict land, the lack of affordable housing, the misuse of land in cities for superstores and office blocks and executive housing. People now are talking about these things. We've succeeded with brass knobs on. Guinness insists that the land was being squatted on illegally and claims that attempts to negotiate a peaceful end to the occupation were rejected by the protesters.
The thing about the planning process is it does take quite a long time, and that's the reason that the site has been undeveloped for as long as it has, and we didn't want it to stay like that any more than anybody else did. But at least it now has run its course through the planning inquiry, and everybody with an interest in that site has been given ample chance to make their views known.
The most dangerous part of today's eviction involved the removal of a number of demonstrators who chained themselves to an iron gantry jutting out over the Thames. In the event, only one person had to be taken to hospital but wasn't seriously injured. The activists say they may now be off the site, but their battle with the brewers is far from over. Well, joining me now is someone who's been on the site for the past 6 months. Jules, you were involved with this morning's eviction, of course. Was it really necessary, given the fact that you knew it was going to happen? Why did you have to do it?
Well, what we actually felt is that this was a demonstration that is how it started, and it has been worth it 10 times over to have done what we've done for the past 5.5 months. We've made a very fine example of showing an alternative way of looking at things. It's been educational experience for people that have come in and seen what we've done.
But in fact, it was illegal what you were doing there, wasn't it? Do you accept that?
It was actually illegal, but I mean, surely the fact that this land had sat here for 7 years and no one had touched it. The local kids had been coming on here. There were vast pits at the back of it that were about 20 foot deep. It's very surprising none of the children had accidents on it. We came here, we filled them up, and we made it accessible to the children, to the local community, and just for the local people in general.
But Guinness say that when they build on this site, they'll open up the river for the first time in many, many years, that it's going to have environmentally friendly community areas. What's wrong with that? Sounds fine, doesn't it?
Well, that would be fine, but if that's the case, if that's what they want to do, can the viewers and the people that have followed us in the radio, can they please tell us why they've chopped down all the trees at the front of the site on both sides and have wiped out? We had a massive wilderness of buddleia, and we had an untold number of wildflowers. Well, they couldn't have incorporated that.
Just quickly,
into,
where are you going to be living now? Where are you going to be living? You obviously haven't got a home.
Well, this is just it. All of us have had to split up, and a large proportion of us do not have anywhere to go because of this.
Well, there we must leave it. Jules, thanks very much indeed. And from Wandsworth, the site of the former Ecovillage, it's back to you now in the studio.
Thank you, James. Well, next tonight, there have been renewed calls for tighter security at schools after a supply teacher in North London was beaten up by 2 intruders. Mike Parsons